Hi, this is Chris Nan from Equus Partners Wealth Management, and on this Financial Sherpa hiking plan we want to start to bring you some case study videos. So some of the things that we may have worked with clients that may actually benefit you or someone you know in your situation. What we're going to look at today is a case study example of Jack and Jill, and how Jack and Jill were able to use their current situation to reduce their mortgage, increase the tax deductibility of their situation to help them increase and grow wealth. So hopefully this is something that you may be able to look at yourself, or maybe know of someone who may benefit from this situation. So let's give a personal rundown. The board may be a bit difficult to read, so apologies for that, but I'll take you through it. So Jack and Jill, what's Jack and Jill? Well, current situation for them is Jack's 39 years of age, Jill's 38 years of age. Jack earns around $200,000, so a good level of income. Jill earns $50,000 of income working part-time. They've got 2 young children. Basically, they want to reduce their mortgage, reduce the amount of tax that's payable, and who doesn't, and increase their wealth. So what's their assets and income situation? Obviously, their income we've spoken about. Their asset situation, they own a home worth around $1.4 million, so standard for the Melbourne area, inner city, nice sort of house situation. They've got a mortgage though of $800,000, so that's a fair chunk of their after-tax income is taken up in mortgage payments, and I'll show you that in a second. The investment property, they've got an investment property worth $800,000, and they owe $100,000 on that. Now, what that's come about in this case study is Jill, when she was very savvy, as a younger person, she bought her first home. She's kept that and was able to pay that off. And that's increased substantially over time. So she may have bought in a city somewhere in her early 20s, and now they've got married to Jack, they've had 2 kids, and she's been able to keep that and get that mortgage right down. So you see that a bit. We see that a bit with some clients that may have come together. One partner might have bought a home. They're now using that as investment property. So that's the investment property situation there. So the total assets that we're looking at are $2.2 million, loans of $900,000, so net wealth of $1.3, and that's really important. We'll come back to that in a second. Okay. So what are they currently doing? So currently they're paying around $4,700 a month in mortgage payments. Okay, so standard sort of interest rates at the moment. That's what they're currently paying after tax money. Okay. Each year they're getting around $5,000 per annum of interest deductions from the investment loan. Okay, so some good deductions, but obviously Jill has rent that she pays on that. Okay, so what their current situation? So their home's worth 1.4 with an $800,000 loan, investment property 800 with 100,000. So their total assets are 2.2 with 900,000. Okay, going along, living life. What can they do? Okay, one of the great scenarios that these guys can look at is what we call debt recycling. Okay, you may have heard that terminology, but let's step you through what that actually looks like. Okay, step 1, Jack buys 85% of the investment property that Jill owns, so she owns 100% of the investment property. They own their home jointly. Should have mentioned that, sorry. They own the home jointly, they own investment property, Jill owns that 100%. So Jack buys 85% of that investment property from Jill by borrowing against her current assets. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, obviously they've got the home with 1.4 with a mortgage of 800. What Jack does is use the investment property worth 800, that has 100,000 owing on it, to borrow $680,000. Okay, so 680 is 85% of 800. Okay, so he borrows 680. So total loan now that's secured against investment property is 780,000. And now Jack owns 85% of it, and Jill owns 15% of it. Okay, so now Jill's actually received these proceeds. So Jill's actually received 680,000 from Jack. So what does Jill do with that? Jill then takes the 680 she received from Jack when he bought the investment property and uses this to pay down their mortgage. Okay, so now what does the situation look like? Well, we've still got the investment property worth $800. Now that has a loan of $780,000 against it. They have a $1.4 million home that did have an $800,000 mortgage, but Jill uses the $680,000 that she received to put against the mortgage. Therefore, now their mortgage is worth $120,000. Okay, so they've been able to reduce their mortgage from $800 to $120 via this strategy. Okay, so what they've actually been able to do is they're now only paying $712,000 a month on their mortgage, $120,000 mortgage. 712 reduced from 4,700. They've now increased the interest that they have as a deduction to $34,000 a year from $5,000 a year. Okay, so they've rejigged the debt. They've recycled the debt. Let's have a look at the situation now. They still own a house with 1.4, but they owe 120. The investment property is worth 800. They owe 700. Sorry, 780. So total assets is still 2.2 with 900, which is still the same as over here. So they haven't actually increased their wealth or anything. What they've done is they've rejigged and reworked their debt situation and drastically freed up after-tax money. Okay, that will now put them in a position where they can use that increased cash flow and the increased potential tax refund that they can get to further increase their wealth. Okay, so really fantastic strategy that we've seen a lot that can, without too much effort, can really rejig your situation. So I hope you found that enjoyable and I hope you found that beneficial. Okay, so look, if you've ever got any questions, don't hesitate to drop us a line at Equus Partners. Till next time.